Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for an ISACA Live conversation on privacy priorities, challenges, and opportunities in 2024. I'm Safia Kazi, Privacy Professional Practices Principal at ISACA, and joining me today is Dr. Lisa McKee, founding partner of American Security and Privacy and a longtime speaker and volunteer with ISACA. So let's start with some brief introductions. Lisa, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and expertise in data privacy?
Yes, thank you, Safia, for having me here today. This is exciting. It's always great to talk privacy with you. My background is I do all things privacy, technology, security, IT audit, governance, risk. I started off as a developer 20 some years ago and then got into security and then data privacy from there. So I bring a unique perspective when we talk about data privacy and from, the software development side to security and how do we protect the systems to the data aspect of it. So that shiny unicorn that people say don't exist, I am one of them, and we are out there.
Well, we're so glad to have you with us here today. And I know we have people joining us from all over the world. So if you are joining us live, please say hi and let us know where you're from in the comments. And you can also add any questions that you may have there as well. We're going to do our best to get to as many questions as we can today. Now, Lisa, as we kick off a new year and Data Privacy Day approaches, this seems like a great time to talk about what data privacy professionals need to be thinking about and doing this year. So at a high level, what do you think should be at the top of minds for privacy professionals in 2024?
The first thing is the data. I think with data privacy and especially on the security side, people lose sight of the data, what they're doing with that data, where that data is going. So that's the whole premise of what we do in privacy is the data. Another thing is privacy governance and program management. As organizations are still trying to figure out where privacy fits in their organization and who should own it, privacy governance and program management and compliance are first and forefront with those. And then, of course, it's emerging technologies. We talk about that a lot with artificial intelligence or AI, machine learning. So emerging technologies is still a hot topic when we talk about data privacy.
Yeah, it's kind of the elephant in the room. We have to talk about AI anytime we have these conversations. Specifically in regard to that, though, what are some of the things that you're concerned about and some things that you're optimistic about when it comes to AI and privacy?
Yeah, organizations, in a lot of the presentations that I give and people that I talk to seem to be blind or naive to the fact that their employees are using these technologies. I have people that will say, no, my employees don't do that. And I can promise you they are, even if you don't believe that they are. And so the best thing for organizations to do to get in front of that is one, acknowledge that your employees are doing it and it's not bad, right? It's okay. We should embrace new technologies. It's not a bad thing, but does your organization have policies and procedures and set guidelines for what data can we put into models, or what's the expectation when using some of those newer technologies, chat GPT and things like that? Because that's where we've seen organizations get into trouble, where they make that assumption that their employees aren't doing it, and then they're using their live company data, feeding them into models, and then they're like, wait, I didn't know that was going to happen. So I think that's the biggest thing, one of the biggest things with AI. The other thing is when we talk about machine learning and modeling, organizations are not always aware of all the laws. I'm not a lawyer, but I do a lot with laws and compliance, so I know a lot what's out there. There are laws that actually explicitly state that they shouldn't be using live data to train those models, but they don't know that. And so then they're using your personal information, my personal information to train the models, or they make the counter argument of how do I train the models if I can't use live data? So then how do I know that it's correct and complete and accurate? And so those are some of the challenges that organizations are facing, and some of the risk that comes with that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it also touches on the idea of data management that you were talking about. If we don't know what data we're putting into these models, how can we possibly control what's coming out of it? You did touch a little bit on new privacy laws and regulations. So if we could talk about that, and in 2024, what are some things that you're seeing? And do you think that the regulations that are in place right now are actually doing things to protect the average data subject?
I'm excited because it's, the first week of 2024, we saw the 12th state, New Jersey pass their privacy law. So now we have 12 states for those that are listening in that may not be aware of that. So that was super exciting. And it appears that New Hampshire might be a close follower because they're getting really close in that final stages before passing theirs. I think we're going to continue to see states push privacy laws. People are fatigued and tired of the data breaches. They're tired of their information being used in ways that they had never intended it to be used for. Organizations are selling it for profit at their expense and at their cost to privacy, and then that data that's being compromised, identities that are being stolen. So I'm hopeful that and excited for what 2024 is going to bring as more states come online with privacy laws. On the other hand, that also presents more challenges because we do know that while largely the state laws are largely similar, there are some nuances between some of those. And if you're like me, I live in a state that's tried a couple of times and our privacy laws hasn't passed. And so then it gets frustrating for those of us that are in the states that don't have privacy laws, especially as a privacy professional, because I tell people to exercise their rights, know what their rights are, but yet I don't have those. So I would really like to see our federal government, our senators and our state legislatures take up these topics and make it be important. We talk about security all the time, but we need security to make privacy happen. And so I'm hopeful that maybe 24 is the year.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, as somebody like you who lives in a state that we have certain biometric privacy laws, but not broader privacy laws, it kind of feels like I'm missing out. Now, so ISACA every year does a survey, the State of Privacy Survey, and we go out and talk to privacy professionals and learn about different trends that we can expect in the privacy workforce and also just in the work of privacy practitioners. So I think the most concerning statistic from this year was that over half of our survey respondents said that they think their privacy budget is going to go down in the next year. And this is considerably higher than what we've seen in previous years when we've done this survey. What do you think are the implications of that budget change?
Yeah, when I saw that statistic, I found that extremely alarming. As a privacy professional, knowing the risk that comes with data privacy, knowing that organizations are still struggling to understand it. And instead of what we've seen in past surveys where they were increasing privacy budgets, right now we're seeing that pullback. We know that the markets are struggling, right? Inflation, salaries have jumped in, substantially. And so there've got to be cuts then in other places. The challenge and the thing that I think is going to backlash from that is most organizations do not have people or a person within their on staff that really know data privacy. Like legal, and I did an article for this a couple years ago with ISACA, right? Passing the hot potato and where does it fit within an organization and how, depending on where you put privacy in an organization, people are going to look at it differently. So if you put it within security, those are very technical minded individuals that are going to look at it from a technology perspective, a privacy engineering perspective, versus if you put it in legal, those are lawyers. They're not tech people, and they're going to look at it more from consent and privacy notices and disclosures and data breach than the technical side of how do we solve and meet the obligations that we're required to do. So it's concerning when we see this pullback on the budget, because now who's going to be ultimately accountable and responsible? And does that individual really know privacy inside and out in all areas of the organization and not just, security or not just the legal side of it?
That's a really great point. I think we also sometimes don't talk about a potential conflict of interest that can happen. You know, if security professionals are talking about non-repudiation and privacy professionals are saying, wait, no, this is an ethics hotline. We actually don't want to know who's sending us these messages. There can be significant conflicts of interest. But just, you know, on a little bit more of a positive note, our survey did find that there were substantial tangible benefits experienced by organizations that regularly practice privacy by design. What would you say to organizations that don't currently practice privacy by design or don't do it as often as they would like?
Privacy by design is another one of those areas that not everybody really understands, right? How long did it take the industry to understand security by design and security end to end? And now we're going through that all over again with privacy. So, what does it mean to be transparent? What does it mean to have privacy built in from end to end? Not always do organizations understand that. Ann Kavukian did a fantastic job of creating privacy by design, laying out the 7 steps of privacy by design, but there's no playbook. So when you ask somebody to implement it, they're going to look at you and go, what is it? And then what do you expect me to do? So there are training opportunities out there for privacy by design. I definitely recommend, you know, any of Ann Kavukian's resources, as she's the one that created it. I've created some playbooks for privacy by design that we use with our customers and our clients that are looking to implement privacy into their SDLC. But those that don't have those resources, outsource. There's training, but outsourcing consulting is probably the best way to go. And then when you talk about the cuts in the budget, hey, guess what? I don't have to worry about paying a full-time resource to do that when I can bring in a consultant, you know, have them help with that implementation. And then, you know, it's a short-term investment as opposed to a long-term FTE.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, for people who are watching this and considering pivoting their career to privacy, or those who are currently in data privacy and want to advance their career, what advice would you have to share with them?
Yes, I love this question. I do get asked this a lot. Um, there's several things that people can do. So first, get involved with the professional associations. I have been involved with ISACA. I'm involved in many different ways. I love it. It's been a game changer for my career. But show up, right? People are very introverted. They're shy. They're hesitant to attend events because what if I don't know anybody? And half the battle is just show up, walk through the door. You would be surprised how many people you might already know once you get to an event, especially something that's local. So get involved at your local chapters with ISACA. If you're looking for training, ISACA has the CDIPSI training, the Certified Privacy Security Engineer. If you're technical, so my background is a very technical background. You're a developer, you're a network engineer, you're a server administrator, those technical folks that maybe you're still in a security role today and interested in learning about privacy, that would be a great place to maybe pivot into privacy. That's how I got into it, was through privacy engineering. So ISACA does offer training on that. Chapters offer training as well. We at our chapter in Omaha, Nebraska offer that. So check out the chapter websites if you're looking for training, or reach out to me and I can help you with that. IAPP is another fantastic resource. So ISACA is near and dear to my heart, but IAPP is one of the leaders in privacy as well, with certifications and training. There was a question in the chat about where can they find the states, how do I get more information on state privacy laws? IAPP has a state tracker that they update very frequently, at least monthly, many times, several times a month. That's the source that I use in a lot of my presentations. So IAPP has some certifications and training that's different than what ISACA offers. So they have state and international ones, management ones as well. And then my organization, American Security and Privacy, we also offer privacy certifications and training. So if you don't find something that's out there, you can always reach out. Again, I'm happy to get you connected with some of that. But there's lots of resources. The thing is that people need to take that initiative, right? It's not going to come to you. You need to take that initiative. And there's coursework too. I have a certificate in data privacy and studied privacy in grad school. So if you're looking at formal education for degrees, there are more and more coming. I have a textbook that's coming out and some classes that are coming at the university. So again, if somebody's looking for anything in that, this is something that I do mentor and offer to people. Just reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share any of those resources with you.
That's great. And, one of our survey findings this year was that only 18% of our respondents said that more than half of their privacy staff spent their entire career in privacy. So the idea of pivoting and shifting into privacy, totally doable, which I think is great. Now, I want to go back to, we were talking about some things that we need to be looking out for in this coming year. And you did talk a little bit about data management. I think this is really important, but I think it is something that a lot of organizations struggle with.
Yes.
So for people looking to improve their data management, where could they start? Do you have any idea of resources that they can begin consulting as they start working on their data management journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always talk about starting at the basics, right? So on the security side, we do inventories. We do system inventories, application, network inventories, and that's where that stops on security. Data privacy takes that one layer deeper. Do you know all the data elements that are being used across those applications, across those systems, across the network? Most don't. So then how are you completing your records of processing activity that is required by a lot of these privacy laws if you don't know the data that you have and where that data is going and what you're doing with it? So one of the things that I do with our clients and that I advise others is to start at the foundation. Map out your categories of personal information. Map out all of the data elements that are being used across the organization. Map the data elements to the processes and the applications. So I've built out, actually, and we use this with our clients today, a software product that helps with that, because that's one of the things that we've seen as a gap in the organization, is that then people ask, well, how do I do this? It's death by spreadsheets in a lot of organizations because there's not a lot of tools that will help with that. So that's my best advice with that data management piece, is understanding that data layer. And here, Safia, one of the things that people don't understand or realize is the benefit that comes from that. Once I know my data layer, guess what? Now I can make sure my privacy notices are complete and correct because I know what data I have, so I can disclose what I'm doing with it. I can ensure my records of processing activities are complete and correct because now I know all the data, which that's what a ROPA is. I can also ensure timely and accurate responses for data subject requests. Organizations, we know, are getting in trouble all over because they're not responding to data subject requests, and then they're getting fined. So that's because they don't know what data they have or how to get the data out of the system. So the data management and the data layer really solves and helps manage a lot of other privacy obligations downstream.
Yeah, so the next question is a question that I've been asked, and I unfortunately don't have a great answer for it. But a lot of privacy professionals work at organizations where higher ups just don't seem to care about privacy or are okay with things like collecting way more data than necessary and selling it for some business purpose. How can privacy professionals convince their executive leaders to support privacy and act in a more ethical manner?
I always try to make it personal. I ask the question, would you be okay if that was your data? Like, how would you feel about it? And it's amazing the instant, like, deer in the headlight look that you get when people go, wait, I have not thought of it that way and I'm not okay with it. Well, if you wouldn't be okay with somebody doing that with your data, then why are you doing it to your customers, to your clients, to your employees? I think that's the biggest thing that we can ask ourselves, and especially leadership, is, as an organization, am I okay with what we're doing? And would I be okay if that was mine? Because I don't feel that we ask ourselves that question enough. And if we did, I feel like decisions that are being made would be made very differently, because it forces people to stop and think about it, and think about it in a different perspective. A lot of companies are quick to think about the bottom line, the financial gain from something, without really thinking about what's the impact to the individual and the harm and the risk that could potentially happen.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. I know we have some questions coming in. So one question, the gist is basically, is data privacy possible, right? I get this all the time. Is privacy dead? What's your take on that?
I say privacy is very not much, very alive. It is not dead. It's hiring, right? It is hiring. I'm excited to be a privacy professional. It's something I'm very passionate about. Of all the things that I do, that's what excites me the most, is privacy, because of the opportunities. I also feel that privacy is going to force better security practices, because there are things that are shortcut in security, because it's like, I haven't got caught yet, so maybe I can cut corners in places. And we know companies are doing that. Privacy is going to force that hand, because you have to protect that data. You have to respond to data subject requests. There's just certain things you can't get out of. And if you look at the fine trackers under, CCPA and CPRA with California, and you look at what GDPR has been doing, privacy is real. That's the difference. Like, a lot of people get away with it with security because they're not fined as much unless the FTC comes after you. But the states are coming at the data privacy level, and it's real. And it will catch up with you. So it's very much alive. It's very much hiring. If you're looking for something new and exciting and different, that's where the opportunities are.
Absolutely. And so before we went live, we were talking about this. A lot of people don't seem to understand the difference between security and privacy. And you were talking about how you are one of the few people who's great at both. Can you elaborate? What is the difference between security and privacy?
Yeah. So security, the way that I explain it, is security of the systems, the technologies, the network, and the infrastructure where the data is housed. So making sure that all of the controls are in place to protect those systems and from unauthorized access. With data privacy, we're looking at the data layer. So how do we ensure that there is not unauthorized access or sharing of the data itself? So taking the security one layer deeper to the data, and that's where we're talking about data privacy. And people often misunderstand that data privacy and data security incidences aren't always the same. So if a system is breached, that might be a security incident or a data breach, depending on the nature of the situation. That most times then may also be a privacy breach if they're getting to the data layer. However, if I, Safia, send you a registration list for the event today, we didn't have registrations, but say there's an event that you and I are doing and we have a registration list, and I send it to somebody else by mistake and it meant to go to you, under privacy laws, that's a privacy incident. Even accidental sharing of information, unintentional, is still a privacy incident. And not always do people understand that. So getting back to that data layer again. So those are some of the fundamental differences between security and privacy.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That's all we have time for today. Thanks so much for joining us, Lisa.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much to everybody who joined us. I encourage you to take a look at ISACA's new Data Privacy Research Report and register for the webinar, both of which are free for ISACA members, and you can find the link to both on the screen. Have a great day.
Thank you.